back, everybody. I'm Jay. This is Yankee and the Brit Monday night or pregame. We're without the Brit because he is in Thailand, which is a 12-hour difference for me. So I think he slept through his alarm because it's 5 a.m. over there. So maybe he jumps on before we're done. If not, we'll give him a pass because it's 5 a.m. and I ain't getting up at 5 a.m. So Maddie's a warrior. I'm sure he just slept through it. But today we're going to talk about some of the games that happened yesterday. And I want to talk about last night's game first. I want to talk about the Chiefs Jets game. It was a good game. Jets had a lot of chances to win that game. Granted, there was the bad exchange on the court on the snap where Zach Wilson fumbles. That they were driving, they could have went ahead, took the lead, maybe won that game. I know everybody says that's what lost it. I don't know, man. You're talking Patrick Mahomes. You put his back up against the wall, sometimes you see a whole different Mahomes boy out there. So let's not go there. But I do know that that game got turned on a bad call. And I know some people are going to go, it was illegal contact. They have been letting each other rape each other all game. They were playing physical, tons of contact. And next thing you know, they're going to call a penalty to give a first down on 3rd and long to the Chiefs because Sauce Gardner touched him. He touched him. I mean, I know he had to hold his tongue because he doesn't want to get fined, but this is what Sauce had to say about the whole thing. That's like when you play basketball one-on-one and you go up to lay the ball up and you wait to see you miss and then say foul. I get what he's saying because the whole game, they were not calling any of that. Way more physical play from the corners and the receivers, back and forth, hand checking the whole game. And next thing you know, when the game's on the line, you're going to throw the flag. When the game's on the line, you're going to throw the flag. But you let it go the whole game. Like, that's actually the opposite of the NBA, right? Where the NBA will call shit all game and then swallow the whistles at the end of the game. And people get mad because they're like, if it's a foul in the first quarter, it's a foul in the fourth quarter, which I get. I completely get it. But I like the idea of not letting the referees determine the outcome of the game. That's one thing I think basketball gets right with that is like, hey, if it's not egregious, don't call it if the game's on the line at the end of the game. It's crazy to me that they threw that flag. And I'm not even saying that the Jets would have went down and scored because Zach Wilson was not playing great. He wasn't playing awful for Zach Wilson, but he wasn't playing great. And it shows the Chiefs are beatable. And the reason I say that is he misses Conklin in the end zone by 3, maybe 4 inches because it hits his hands, but it's way too far out for him to catch that. And he misses, just barely overthrows Garrett Wilson in the end zone at the end of the game. Aaron Rodgers makes both of those throws. Aaron Rodgers makes both of those throws. That's 14 more points for the Jets. And yes, if they score those touchdowns, Andy Reid calls the game differently. And I'm not saying you get the exact same outcome necessarily, but it does show you these Chiefs are beatable. And they didn't look very Chief-like. I mean, I know the Jets have a shutdown, amazing defense, but the interceptions from Mahomes, that's not what we're used to seeing from Mahomes. So I think the Chiefs are beatable. I think the Jets got hosed on that call because you let them hand check and fight the whole fucking game. But now it becomes a problem. I don't know. Just a bad time to throw a flag, if you ask me. And a game I just took a beating on when I bet it, those Tennessee Titans versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Bro, the Bengals look bad. The Bengals look bad. And I could use this as a trivia question if Maddie was here, and I probably would. Like, who has the worst offense in the NFL this year? How many people are going to say the Bengals? The Bengals. They're 32nd in yards, 32nd in yards per attempt, 32nd in touchdowns, 32nd in something else too. The Bengals are not good, but I've been saying it from the beginning. I think Joey Burrow's still hurt. I don't think he's healed. I think that calf is still bothering Burrow. I think that's a big problem because their offensive line has been suspect for years. And I know my co-host, Maddie, would tell you their offensive line got better. I always argued it's just Joe Burrow reading defenses, getting rid of the ball, and putting their offense in better positions with a bad defense or a bad offensive line. Against good defenses, it's hard, but he still does it. Now that his calf's still injured, he doesn't have the same mobility. His throws are a little off. And I hear people go, I literally read people say this on Facebook today. Joe Burrow's just Joe Flacco 2.0. Got big money and now he can't play. Stop it, you guys. We all knew what Flacco was, even when he bet on himself and got that huge contract after the Super Bowl. We all knew what Flacco was. He was not an elite quarterback then, but because he bet on himself, won the Super Bowl, the Ravens really were backed into a corner and had no choice but to make him the highest paid quarterback. That's not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the man out on the football field. He's elite. He's a top 5 quarterback, even though he's not playing it right now. Any team without a quarterback would kill for Joe Burrow. So let's not pretend that Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow are even close to the same player. But the Bengals got blown the fuck out behind a monster day by King Henry. Hop went off. It was a good day for that Tennessee Titans. It was 27-3. So if you followed me on that bet, my apologies because I got you smoked. And we'll see how we do at this week because I'm going in right now 8-6-1 into tonight's game, which I'll pick that game before it's over, before the show is over. So I could still go 9-6-1, which ain't a bad week. We're still up. Let's go. And no matter what, you made some money because I'm still going to be over, and to the good 50-50 there, little over. And to be a good gambler in Las Vegas, to like back in the day, they always said, to be a professional gambler, you got to hit around 54%. Right now, even though this wasn't my best week, we're still crushing it. So I'm loving where we're at. And either way, we end up in the positive money-wise. But I hope we hit tonight because then, nothing like winning 3 games above 500 compared to 1 game above 500. But either way, we're still in the money this week. And if you've been following me, we've been crushing it. Do some quick math here. I think we're 41, 20, and 2. So we could be 42, 20, and 2 after tonight, or 41, 21, and 2. Either way, we're still crushing it. We're way ahead in the gambling market. So if you've been following me, cha-ching. All right. So let's move on to another game that I was hoping to talk to Maddie about. But again, he's not here. His rival Eagles. That Eagles game, man, that was something to watch. Because, again, nobody's exactly sure what the Eagles are this year. And I know I was going to say for a fact, but I guess it's more opinion than fact. But I don't have faith in the Commanders at all. Because if you think about it, like Sam Howell went 29-41, 290, 1 touchdown. All right. Okay. He had a good game, but it's not going to light the world on fire. Sam Howell is not the answer. So what's going on with the Eagles is what it brings me back to that question. But how do you talk shit about a team that's still undefeated, 4-0? As our boy Hitman from Street Beefs West Coast would say, fly, Eagles, fly, right? Like, how the fuck you're going to talk shit on a team that's 4-0? But yet they're not looking like the same team they were last year, even though they keep winning. But again, we've been through this. Maybe it's the change of coordinators. And again, Jalen Hurts is the only guy I know who's had it worse than Kirk Cousins for having new coordinators. I think he's had more coordinators. He's had a different offensive coordinator every year since high school, Jalen Hurts, which is crazy. Where Kirk Cousins has had only 1 year or only 2 years in his whole career where he's had the same offensive coordinator back to back, only twice. So it's rough on guys like that. But Jalen Hurts learning a new offense, cool, but they're still not looking the same. But that defense is nasty. That defense is still nasty, even though they gave up 31 points. They still have all the makings of top. I mean, I was just looking through the top defensive players, and the Eagles have like 3 of the top 10 rated defensive players right now in the NFL this season. Swift didn't have as big of a game, but A.J. Brown went the fuck off for nine receptions, 175 yards, 2 tuds. That was a great trade. They so won that trade with the Tennessee Titans, and the GM got fired in Tennessee after that. But A.J. Brown was a great move. Howie Roseman is a fucking mad scientist who figures it out all the time. But that was a really close game, and Riverboat Ron was not Riverboat Ron and didn't go for the 2, which I for sure thought he would at the end of the game to snatch that victory from the Eagles if you convert on the 2-point conversion. And it took him a while to answer it, but then he said they were gassed. I don't know if that's the truth. And it's not that I want to say that Ron's lying, but it's the way he hesitated, and it took him so long to answer that fucking question. Excuse me. It doesn't seem like that's the true answer. The Commanders had a chance to win that game with a 2-point conversion. They fucked it off, being cute. The better team usually wins in overtime, and we all knew the Eagles were the better team. So why you let it go to overtime, I'm not sure. Just go for that 2 points. If you convert it, you win the game. The Eagles go home with a loss. And holy shit. Straight out of Thailand. Somebody in the waiting room for us. It's our man, Maddie. If StreamYard will let me add him to the stage. Oh, I think he added himself, and now I just removed him. We're playing games. There we go.
I'm in. Hey, guys. Sorry about that. Alarm clock.
Hey, we gave you a pass. I told him, man, it's a 12-hour difference.
Yeah. What is it? What is it here? Like 5:15 in the morning. Alarm clock issues this time. Really frustrating.
I actually said you slept through it. My guess was you slept through it, but
like I had one for 4:30 and it just didn't go off, and then my one at 5 went off, and I was like, fuck.
Now, have you watched the show or not? Because I have a trivia question, but if you heard the answer, then
no, haven't seen any.
So before we get into anything, so it doesn't give anything away, quick trivia question for you, Maddie.
Okay.
What team in the NFL right now has the worst offense?
Oh, like in terms of stats, or just your
stats?
Let's see, like points scored.
Oh, it's a list of things. It's yards per game, yards per play,
okay,
touchdown scored. That it's a bunch of things.
Okay. Jets or Steelers?
The Bengals.
Oh, of course. See, they lose you don't expect them to be there, so you just didn't think of them, and as soon as you said it was like, well, they've scored 3 points, 16 points, like whatever. They looked bad as well. It's a few other things other than Joe Burrow's calf too.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it's Burrow's calf, because you and I disagree on, you think their line got better. I think it was just Joe Burrow bailing them out. I think it's kind of proving that might be the offensive line ain't as good as people thought, because Joe Burrow is not as, and he's not as accurate. Like there's something about when he's throwing, he's overthrowing and underthrowing guys that we haven't seen this before.
Yeah, you take away Joe Burrow's Joe Burrow's mobility, can't shift the pocket. It's we were talking about this with another quarterback. Recently, where the fact that they're mobile and they're able to shift the pocket makes them a lot better than when somebody's just stood back there. And
we were talking about Baker, how they'll move the whole pocket with Baker. Yes.
Yeah. So Baker makes the Tampa offensive line look a little bit better because he can move. Like weirdly, Zach Wilson at times does things that helps the Jets offensive line because he's able to move and stuff like that. Now Joe Burrow's not able to move. He's a still target. The offensive line for the Bengals can't hold up.
Well, we did talk about the Jets, but let's go back to that Jets-Chiefs game since you're here, because I was on a tangent about the call on Sauce Gardner because they let each other play tough, hand check, fight all game. I mean, practically raping each other on the field. And then he just touches the receiver on the way by, and it cost them the fucking game on a call that didn't have it. And I don't know if you saw his quote after the game, but I'll put it back up on the screen. it said, that's like when you play basketball one-on-one, you go up to lay up the ball and you wait to see if you miss and then say foul.
Yeah, they.
He's going to
It's
get
when he
fined for
throws the
that too.
flag.
Huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, he say what you want, know that you're going to get fined for it. It's one of those things where, people cry lack of freedom of speech when really it's like, well, there is freedom of speech. It's just you have to face consequences when there's freedom.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's just
freedom of
one of
speech
those things.
keeps the government from prosecuting you for your beliefs. Like your
Yeah,
employer can hold it the fuck against you
it doesn't
when
mean
you
that
say
there's not
something. Yeah.
like, so yes, you can't call out referees. You should be fined for that. The fine is still worth saying it still though.
You
But
know what I think? I think if it's a legitimate beef, the coach should be able to say it in public
yeah.
only because they don't make the refs speak to the media. Otherwise, keep it the way it is, but make the refs actually speak to the media and
Mm,
answer for the bullshit they do.
mm. Yeah, that's not a bad solve. The the actual code itself, it's when the flag is thrown is a big thing for me there. So
I said that earlier too.
the flag isn't thrown until it's an interception. The flag's not thrown when they're playing hands and holding. So the holding, it has to be within 5 yards. The interception happens after the 5 yards. No, it wasn't holding, was it? It was illegal contact,
Yes,
which is
yes.
a 5 yard penalty, which has to happen within the 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. The interception happens about 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. So when he throws the flag, it's already been going on for 5 yards longer than the penalty he's thrown it for. So I wasn't sure about that one.
And the way they let them play all night, I was good with. Just let them
Mm.
be physical, let them play and then you call it at the end. I was just saying, I know people get mad at basketball because they're like, if it's a foul in the first quarter, it should be a foul in the fourth. But I'm on the idea of, as the ref, do not affect the outcome of the game. If it's an egregious foul in basketball, call it, but don't call some ticky-tack thing at the end of the game that's going to cost an NBA team the game. I feel the same thing in the NFL. Now, if you were calling that game tight the whole game and that was a flag all game, okay. But you're letting them get away with this, and then you want to make a stand on that last drive.
Yeah, because it is it is a foul. You can interpret the laws in a way where Sauce Gardner
I
should have been
still don't know
flagged on
if
that
it's a
play.
foul, but I get it. Like,
Yeah, yes. So the ref isn't wrong in his decision, and when you come from the sports that I play, so rugby and cricket, like we have big beliefs in like the ref is never wrong because they're the person that's interpreting the rules that way, and that's
so
just how
crazy
you've
to
got to
me.
do the game. But when they've been doing it one way the whole time, and then they do it just for one play, and it's such a massive play as well. That was very, very upsetting. Now, would it have changed the outcome of the game that in the Jets half on the 20-yard line, if they get that turnover, like, yes, Zach Wilson's playing all right, but they've only scored.
I said that too. Yeah.
Yeah, they've only scored 3 points in the second. So the Chiefs only score, what is it? Let's get the quarter by quarter breakdown. So the Chiefs only score 3 points in the second half, which amazing by the New York defense, by the way. Like, amazing by the New York defense. Also, are the Chiefs Super Bowl bound? Don't know. But the Jets only scored 8 points in the second half as well. So we don't know that they're gonna. What did they need to make, like 50 yards, 60 yards before they're able to kick a field goal and stuff? So I'm not overly confident in the fact that would have changed the outcome of the game, to be perfectly honest. But Zach Wilson looked a lot better.
I did say, though, Aaron Rodgers would have made a huge difference because Zach Wilson misses Conklin by a few inches in the end zone. It hits him in the hands, but he can't pull it in. And he overshoots Garrett Wilson slightly in the corner. I think Rodgers hits both of those if he's playing.
Yeah, I do think I think there's a few drops in there as well that don't help Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson looked good. Like, last night. Like, serviceable. Zach Wilson looked like a serviceable quarterback against the Chiefs when they were playing.
So we were just, as you came in, finishing up on the Eagles and the Redskins or the Commanders, where Riverboat Ron fucking had a chance to win that game if he tried a 2-point conversion. And then when he's asked about it, it took him forever to answer the question. So he was full of shit with his answer. And then he's like, they were gassed.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing to say because do you want your... Because then that's a conditioning issue, which is also your responsibility.
That's a good point, actually.
So actually that happened in the Jets game as well. Breece Hall's conditioning in. If Breece Hall has better conditioning, he scores a touchdown for 60 yards, and he would have had one for 99 yards the week before as well. Anyway, that's Breece Hall's coming off a massive injury, so we can give him a break. But it becomes a conditioning issue if your teams can't do that. And conditioning issues while you're in the NFL is unforgivable, in my opinion, because yes, you need to be fit to play in the NFL. I'm not saying you don't, but you get so many breaks, roll on, roll off substitutions. Like, if your conditioning isn't to a standard where you can go for the whole game in the NFL, because I understand you're carrying around a lot of weight, like NFL players are all mass and they've got the pads and everything as well. So I get that, but it's so.
And unlike basketball and definitely soccer, you're not like football. Every play you're giving 100%. There's rarely a time in soccer, basketball, and baseball that you're giving 100% of energy at one time.
Yeah. But where you are giving 100% of energy in those sports is in the last 5 minutes. So, like, where you have the opportunity to win the game in the last 5 minutes, that's where you dig deep into, like, the hurt locker when you've been playing for, like, the whole rest of the game. So that's a conditioning issue from Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera is costing the Commanders by being the coach there. I like the hire at the time, but he's costing them by being the coach there. The other side of this is, are the Commanders reliably good enough to get that 2 points? Like, I understand, like, go for the win. Like, go for the win. I was disappointed that they didn't do it.
The thing too is, if the rule being, if you're a coach, the better team wins in overtime, the Eagles are the better team, go for the 2.
Yeah, and they got the flip of the coin that they needed. So, like, it's like they didn't go for the 2, and you're like, right, okay, you better win this coin flip then. And they got the flip of the coin, and they didn't make it down the field. And if you don't make it down the field in the first go, like, you're probably losing because they just need a field goal at the end. When you have a chance to beat a team like the Eagles, who, let's face it, the Eagles remind me a little bit of the Steelers when they went 11-0. Like, not as fraudulent as the Steelers when they went 11. I'm not saying they're going to go 11-0 and then lose 5 games on the bounce to be at the end, but I think it is a kind of fraudulent 4-0. Like, I wouldn't be so confident that the Vikings are that much worse than the Eagles, but the Vikings are 1-3, and the Eagles
we had
are 4-0.
a fucking chance to beat them too. Don't get me started.
so I'm not that convinced by the Eagles either.
Well, that's a good transition to the Vikings game, because I think it just shows how bad the Panthers really are, because the Vikings started that fucking game with a pick 6. The whole game was like, the whole first half was nothing but anything that can go wrong went wrong for the Vikings again, and they end up winning that fucking game. So I think it's more of an indictment on Carolina. And I have really been hard on Carolina's coaching staff, and they just proved me right, because Frank Reich comes out and says he calls a play for Adam Thielen and didn't realize Adam Thielen wasn't on the field. What? How the fuck do you not know who's on the personnel's on the field if you're the head coach?
I like the honesty, but maybe that's just something that you don't tell the media. Like, like, the media are going to have a field day with that. And, like, it's not just that's not just an indictment on you, is what I mean there. So, like, you would think, like, oh, the reason why he said it is because he doesn't really give a shit what the media thinks, and he was, like, just being honest. And people in the media always say, like, oh, we always have a go at like coaches for not being honest. We get so annoyed when they're not honest. And then when they are honest, we rinse them through them. And it's like, right, be honest, but that's an indictment on your whole team. Like if you say something like that, that's just going to cause a storm around your whole team. If you say things like Adam Thielen's not on the pitch when I'm calling plays, an unnecessary media nugget for them to use the entire time against you at a time where the Panthers are also not great. And it's also difficult it's really difficult for Bryce Young to be in a team like that when you're starting in the NFL. You're wasting your quarterback's first year. We see it all the time where quarterbacks land in the wrong spots, and it kind of ruins them in their first year. So you worry that that's happening. You worry that that's happening here. But yeah, Kirk had to be fair to Bryce, like 25 for 32, 204 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions is not the worst stat line in the entire world.
The worst game of his season, and we won. So I don't know what to fucking say.
Yeah, Kirk throws for 12 and 19. So not very much. So a lot of running there. Cam Akers looked good, by the way, for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But Madison looked good.
Madison Cam had Akers 90 last week too. So like the first 2 weeks were bad, but they were really good run defenses too. So like I don't know where I fall on Madison yet. And like I've told you, I might be a little bit of a homer because like I actually got to interview the guy, and you know I've had Facebook conversations with his father. I don't want to say I've had conversations because we don't like call each other on the phone or anything. You know? But like, you know, so I might be a little bit of a homer though. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think Madison is as big of a problem as other people do. But think about this. Cousins throws 12 of 19, 139, 2-2. Jefferson has 6 for 85. 50% of his fucking catches come from and more than 50%.
More than 50%. Yeah.
Well, 50% of the catches and more than 50% of the yards.
Yeah. They do have an unbelievable unbelievable connection. I mean, maybe that's just more they weren't really throwing the yardage. Kirk throwing 2 interceptions, and like
that I think was bad. That was bad. And I usually try to figure out like I'm not like I don't think Kirk's the best quarterback in the NFL, but I am a Kirk defender. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was bad. I got no defense for that fucking pick 6 at all.
That looked like a Dak Prescott from last year play where he's just read the defense completely wrong. Where he's got everything there completely wrong. Like the throw, the read, just all bad. Just nothing to. And you watch it and you're like, who are you throwing to, Kirk? Like who are you aiming for here? Like what was the end game of that play? So yeah, Kirk plays his worst game. Vikings. The defense didn't look too bad at times, but they are playing against the Panthers. Adam Thielen had another big day again.
They're gonna upset the Chiefs Sunday, so we don't have to worry about that. So the more I watch, the more dysfunctional they are, the fucking Bears.
Why?
And what is going on with the Chase Claypool and the Bears? Because now they sent Claypool home leading up to this Thursday's game, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
Yeah. The whole organization is an absolute
it's a weird situation right now in Chicago.
Yeah, so you have the defensive coordinator has had to resign because he's being investigated by the FBI. You have a head coach who has no business being a head coach. Like, is he that much worse than Nathaniel Hackett was last year? In terms of like game management and because like he doesn't run Justin Fields at all. Like I know he's the he's the head coach.
That much better than the
Yeah, that's a fair point. Well, yeah. But you have I know he's not the offensive coordinator, but you would think if you're the head coach, you go like, fucking run Justin Fields, play more running ball and stuff like that at the start. By the way, Justin Fields looked absolutely awesome apart from one play. Like, Justin Fields has one bad play. The issue is when Justin Fields has a bad play, that shit is game ending.
You're talking about a team that gave up 70 the week before, though. So Justin Fields looks good against a fucking high school defense. Like, you should. You should look good against the high school defense.
Yes, but some of the plays did look some of the plays and everything look very, very good as well.
That's the most bear shit ever. I hope they keep this motherfucker forever. Like, because he is just god awful. And then the Bears fans are like, see, he played fucking great against the high school defense. See, MVP. I hope they keep him for 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think he looks pretty good. I mean, 4 touchdowns, like 28 for 35, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, that's a better stat line than Tua had against the.
Did you ever hear the old saying that even the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while?
No, I haven't, but that is probably one of the most American sayings I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, well, the sun does shine on a dog's ass every once in a while. Or a broke clock's right twice a day.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, like, it happens. Like, but this is a team.
But it's not Justin Fields' fault that they. Well, actually, it is Justin Fields' fault that
you're playing a team that gave up almost 100 fucking points, 98 points in 2 games. That's my problem with the Justin Fields stat line.
Yeah, the other issue is, I was just about to say, it's not his fault that the defense gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter, but actually 7 of those points are directly his fault. So, yeah, the play call on that play, like, we all know the play that I'm talking about here, where his eyes are away from the offensive line. He turns around, tries to throw the ball into the ground, but ends up fumbling. We all know that one. He has a problem with play action. Like, I know you think he has a problem with every play.
He's got the most fumbles out of any quarterback in the beginning of their career.
Yeah, a lot of that is due to the kind of quarterback he is, but hold on to the fucking ball. Like, it can't be that hard. But this particular play showed a real issue he has with play action. When he's not facing the offensive line, he has no sense of awareness of where anybody is. So, like, he turns around and is surprised by the guy that's there, which is not good offensive line play, but also you're the quarterback. You should know when somebody's there. And your team is up going into the fourth quarter. Just hold on to the fucking ball. Take the sack. Just take the sack. It also keeps the clock running. So, like, you know, it would have been all better game management to just take the sack and just punt it away and just get on with the rest of the game. Let your defense play. But the defense in Chicago is an issue as well.
Again, though, it just goes back to when the game's on the line in any important situation, you can't trust the quarterback.
Yeah. You also can't trust the defense to make play. There is actually, do you know what? There is just nothing right with the Chicago Bears in that building. There is nothing right. Not taking the field goal and going for it. It's like why wouldn't you take? I get the going. I get it. You want to ice the game, like all of that kind of stuff. But you're the fucking Bears. You're 0-3. You're 0-3. Take the field goal. Take the field goal. Take that shit to overtime. You've actually managed to stop the Broncos on quite a lot of occasions in this game, and you decide not to kick it. Eberflus needs to go. Justin Fields probably isn't the guy. Like,
I watched Staley do the same dumb shit against the Chargers. It just didn't end up biting him in the ass.
Yeah. Staley is actually the Chargers. The worst thing that could have happened to the Chargers in terms of a long-term plan is winning the last 2 games.
Yeah. But I don't know what I think with the Bears, you just tear it down and start over. That's what I think. I think you fire the GM 2 years in, and people are like, it's only 2 years in. Bro, you had a truckload of fucking money to spend, and you filled your linebacking core.
To look worse than they did last year is a travesty. Is really bad. Like we weren't like look, we weren't thinking that the Bears are going to come out here and rebuild this whole thing straight away. But what we were thinking is, okay, you can at least try to develop Justin Fields. Like Justin Fields could have a decent offensive line here. He could have weapons, and then you spend all the money on defense, and you're like, right, okay, very Chicago Bears, very 1985 football. Defense is not the way to win games anymore, but fine, fuck it, okay. But then they've got, I think they've got something ridiculous, like 3 sacks across 4 games. It's something stupid. Like, if you're going to do that, then your team needs to be. And against the Broncos as well, like Russell Wilson is a quarterback that you can sack, down to Russell Wilson and down to the Broncos offensive line. So to only get 1 in this game while you're allowing 3, they lose the sack differential every game.
And now they send their one of their top wide receivers home. Nobody knows fucking why. I'm sure he said some shit because he's pissed off about the season, but that's just me speculating. I have no basis, except I personally would be losing my fucking mind if I got traded to that team and I'm fucking stuck there. And
the connection between Justin Fields and DJ Moore looks good, because the week before, Justin Fields had some good plays to DJ Moore and DJ Moore dropped them. So this week he caught them and they look decent.
Maddie's back on the Justin Fields bandwagon.
I'm not back. You know, I'm not back on the Justin Fields bandwagon. I just like to even.
Hey,
I just like to even
inside information. Maddie's trying to trade for Justin Fields.
I still think he's better than Trey Lance.
No, I meant in fantasy football. You're still trying to trade for him.
I think he's always good for fantasy football points. It's at the moment I have Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, so basically 2 of the same. So I'm thinking if I go up against like a team where I'm going to need like 150 to win that week, then I may as well play Justin Fields because he's good for like he's good for like 15 a game, and sometimes that'll be 35. You know, I think he's a good fantasy acquisition still.
Did you see that Schultz outscored everybody? The Canadian tried to trade and told me he wouldn't take Schultz in the trade, but yet Schultz outscored everybody he put in the trade.
Did you see? Yeah. Honestly, the guy just likes to move around his thing. I scored 174 points this week, and I had more points on the bench. That like I could have had 190.
I won the game after the first slate of games yesterday. I won my matchup because all of not joshing around's guys played. And I already had more points than him going into the 3:00 games.
Yeah.
It's the earliest I've ever put a fantasy game away, like ever.
I won by 99 points today. Like yesterday.
Well,
and then we have nobody in this slate.
I had the Chiefs defense, the Jags defense, that gave me 21 points. Then I had Derrick Henry. He went the fuck off. So, like, I had fucking 3 guys who just went off, or 3 players that just went off.
Yeah. I've had Kyren Williams who went for 28.7 points again. Like, a guy who I ended up taking in the last pick, my last pick of the draft, and I only took him because the projected points told me to. It always surprises me that people like go against the projected points and stuff, especially in those like late rounds. It's like you don't know that much more than like
in
ESPN
the late round,
is going to.
That's when I like to go after rookies I know that are going to get a fair amount of playing time.
Yeah. I would really suggest to people to like take people based on projected score in like those later rounds. Nico Collins got 37.8 points for me. Again. Mark Andrews on 25, and then the Cowboys defense on 26. That's one of my highest scoring players is the Cowboys defense. One of the best averages. What do they average so far this year? 18.8 points as a defense they average on fantasy football so far this year. And then on the bench, I had Madison, James Cook, Adam Thielen got 15 points. Jake Ferguson got 14.7 points. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this week. But there's some big fantasy scorers out there this week. And St. Louis snipers, because the fact that Miami were terrible, lost their first game. So I'm at the top
Anthony
of our division
Richardson
now.
went off for almost 30 for me.
Yeah, he looked good. That Rams Colts game is wild. Have you talked about that yet?
No, everybody's like he looked good, like he threw for 200 yards, you guys. Like he didn't like light the world on fire, but it helps when you have 3 tutties, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he didn't. They were down 20 points to 0 at halftime, and it went to overtime. That's good for Anthony Richardson, because you're thinking about the Colts at the start of the season. You're thinking the Colts are awful anyway. So you're thinking, oh shit, like they're going to lose a lot of games. And then what you're really thinking is, for the Colts to win any games, they need to get out in front early so that then they can control the clock. Anthony Richardson can run the ball. Same winning formula as like a lot of teams, like Baltimore, front run, like all of that kind of stuff. But to score 20, how many points did they score in the second half? To score 23 points in the second half, coming from behind, that's a good thing for Anthony Richardson, and it's a good thing for the Colts. Like,
Is it good though that he's running the ball 10 plus times a game?
I don't think he can play any other way though. Like, I think yes, like I think it is good. Is it going to make his career in the NFL a lot shorter? Yes, but it's going to maximize the time he has in the NFL.
You win a Super Bowl that way. I mean,
well, you don't win a Super Bowl with the Colts team that they've got right now, but
for 3 years up into this year, all we heard were the Colts are a quarterback away from a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and then they went with
I think we were wrong.
Matt Ryan and fucking Phillip Rivers, you know? So
yeah. And I think Anthony Richardson has a lot of room for improvement. His room for improvement is in accuracy, and some people say you can coach accuracy. Some people say you can't.
I think either you're accurate or not. You can make you a little more accurate with mechanics and foot.
I think you can gain like 10% points in accuracy.
Okay, and I
maybe.
think that might be pushing it, but I won't argue with
yeah,
that.
I think that's like you have crazy levels of development. That's like you have Geno Smith for the Seahawks last year, levels of development and change, right? But if he's starting, what's Anthony Richardson's completion percent rate on this season? Let's have a look. So it can't be much higher than 50. So if he gains 10% points, then yeah, his completion percentage is 44% in that last game.
Okay,
in
but
the last game,
54. Then if you're not over 65, get out of the NFL. You're going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's not like. So even if he does improve by that 10%, which again is a crazy amount of improvement and very unlikely that that's going to happen. So his season stats are 53%. So 63 if he improves by 10% points in accuracy, which he won't, by the way. He won't improve by the 10%. He won't improve by that. He won't improve by that much. Like, that won't happen.
And I like the kid. I hope he succeeds.
Yeah.
He seems like a generally good dude. Like, think about this. He's a rookie. After they do this, they have this whole like thing at training camp where the fans get to come out and the families and stuff like that. He's the star quarterback rookie. It gets over. All of his teammates go in, and he stays out and helps the staff clean up.
Yeah, like
he's a good dude. You know what I mean? Like,
great. You're an awesome guy. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, great. You're an awesome guy. That's amazing, but your play isn't going to keep you in. Your play isn't going to keep you in the NFL, unfortunately, unless you improve throwing the ball. And people will say, like, well, Lamar Jackson runs all the time. Lamar Jackson is accurate. Like, Lamar Jackson is an accurate thrower of the
Especially in the
football.
middle of the field. Where Lamar gets a little sketchy is at the outside the numbers, but he's still NFL good at it. He's just not elite at it.
You can build an offense to where Lamar Jackson is accurate by having it all in the middle of the field. It's why Mark Andrews is such a good pickup in things like fantasy, because in the middle of the field.
I would argue that he's as accurate as Lamar is as accurate as Russell Wilson was during his Super Bowl runs.
Yeah. All right. That's his QBR. That's so annoying. Lamar Jackson's overall completion percentage since coming into the NFL is 64%, which also accounts for his rookie year being 58%. So far this year,
he's gotten better every year.
Yeah, outside of 2022, where he spent a decent amount of time injured, he's got better every single year. He's on 74% so far this season.
I like Pittman. I don't think he's a number one, though. And I was just going to say with Lamar, outside of tight ends, he's never, up until OBJ and stuff, had elite wide receiver. And maybe that's part of maybe Anthony Richardson is better if you got him an elite wide receiver.
Right. Yes. But Lamar Jackson is now thrown at 74%. Now he has Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham and Mark Andrews. So yes, it will improve him if he has those things, but he's starting from a much lower basis than Lamar Jackson did. And Lamar Jackson's lead wide receiver was Hollywood Brown, and Michael Pittman and Hollywood Brown are pretty comparable in qualities of a number one wide receiver. And by comparable, I mean they're both number two wide receivers.
And why is it that everybody whose name is Zay can catch the fucking ball in the NFL? That's all I know. Zay Jones, Zay Flowers, these guys are.
Name your kid Zay if you want to get if you want a wide receiver as a child. If you want them to look after you in your retirement home through their NFL money, then you have to call the kid Zay. That's all you have to do. It's pretty easy.
Simple. No practice needed. Nothing. Just name them Zay.
Yeah. L World recording and promo, by the way, is very right. Lamar Jackson did look very good this week. The Baltimore Ravens looked pretty shit hot this week. So
I'm a big fan of L World himself because we're in a lot of the same comments and a lot of podcasts. Yeah. Really like that dude. So shout out L World. Again, not somebody I've met in the person or call on the phone, but have had internet chats with. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's where is the Baltimore game? In my stats thing. Yeah. They made the Browns look bad, but obviously they're playing Dorian Thompson-Robinson as well.
I am so mad that fucking Deshaun Watson, as soon as I pick the Browns, goes, I'm not playing today, guys.
Yeah, also you're a fan of DTR. And I don't think that's a very fair first outing on DTR.
No, but what I think is it actually proves that these people who think that, Caleb Williams, he'll change your fucking team. Shakur Sanders will change your team. DTR balled the fuck out in preseason and struggled in the regular season. College kids need to learn the game. They are not going to come in and just change a fucking franchise overnight.
Yeah. They also asked him to throw 36 times in his first game in the NFL. Yeah. Which is too many. So
maybe it's not just Stefanski trying to fuck Mayfield. Maybe he just does that to quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Hey, go throw 50 times. Go throw 50 times.
They asked him to throw 36 times. So he has 19 completions on 36 attempts for 121 yards and 3 interceptions.
You know why he did that? Because he became an offensive coordinator under Mike Zimmer who wouldn't let him throw the ball.
Yeah, just get when you first go to college and you first go to university and you can do all the shit that you realize you're walking around the shop for buying your own food and you go, shit, there is legitimately nobody to stop me right here buying 3 tubs of Ben and Jerry's ice cream and eating that for all 3 of my meals. There is
Hey,
nobody
I'm
to
not a
stop
big
me.
cake fan, but just know as an adult, you can go buy a whole cake and eat it if you want. You don't need a birthday.
Yeah, when people say you can't have your
Just
cake and
saying.
eat it, I'm like that you're fucking wrong. You can have your cake and you can eat it, Like that's exactly what you can do in the NFL. In the NFL. That's exactly what you can do as an adult. When you're
Maddie's
going
still
around the shop
tired,
for that
guys.
first
He's
time.
still tired.
There's
All
still
right, Maddie.
confusing
Well,
all my words.
let's get to tonight's game.
Yeah.
We got the Seahawks going to New York, and the Seahawks are 2.5 point favorites in this game on the road.
Yeah. I think that's a fair stat line. I would see Seahawks as maybe being a 6-point favorite in Seattle, because I think they get given the 3 in Seattle, but then I think probably the crowd in Seattle is worth another 1. I I think the New York Giants just aren't a good football team, like at all. I don't look
I
at
agree.
I don't look at a position on the pitch where they're solid. Like, it feels like any one time a position group can totally fall apart from them at the start of the season. And then I look at the Seahawks and I'm like, right, you guys aren't going to light the world on fire, but in every position group, you are solid. I'd be surprised if they did fall apart. I think their first game lit a fire underneath their arse, because when you came on the show and said that they didn't look like a Pete Carroll team, I was like, fuck yeah, that's it. I was like, that's it. And Pete Carroll isn't going to allow that from this point on. So now they look like a Pete Carroll team. And I give me the Seahawks, and I think it has the potential to not even be close.
I hate when teams have to travel from one coast to the other in the U.S. because that is a long fucking travel, and it seems to take a toll. Because if you look at those games, but I'm still going with the Seahawks and the -2.5.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley's out as well. So the way that they have to, Andrew Thomas is out at left tackle as well. I would be interested to hear why, like, because in the comments we've got some, like, Overtime and Elwood. Please, can you tell us why you think the Jets are going to win in the comments? That would be why you think the Giants are going to win in the comments, because that would be interesting to me. Because personally, I don't really see a route to them winning. If you know what I mean, I can't think of a game plan which will help them win.
Waller looks unenthused this year. Like, he has not looked great this year being traded from the Raiders. People forget how old he is, so I wonder if that has something to do with it. They don't have number 1 receiver on that team. Daniel Jones doesn't get a ton of help from that offensive line, and now your best player isn't playing. I don't know. It's rough.
Yeah, defensively, they're rough as well. The 58 points they've scored.
There is something to what he just said, though. Like, you're due. Sometimes you're just due for a win.
But they got the win. But they got the win that they were due against the Cardinals that they shouldn't have got. Like, in the biggest, one of the biggest upsets of the biggest upsets of the entire year. That is the Cardinals. That's a fair point. But the Cardinals beat Cowboys. They pushed 49ers
I don't have
for
a
a while.
problem with that answer either, though.
Geno Smith is sometimes unbelievable.
I'm still not a believer in Geno, though, either. He does it. And so
that's what I mean. He's sometimes difficult to believe. Like, it is sometimes difficult to watch Geno Smith and go like, oh yeah, this guy is it in the NFL. But if there's a team that you want to be playing against as a quarterback at the moment, it is the Giants. Like, so far they've conceded 108 points.
Yeah.
In 3 games this year. Like, yes, so they played the 49ers.
So unless you're the Broncos.
Yeah. So unless you're the Broncos, they've got the worst point conceding defense. Is that right? Jesus Christ, the Broncos is so bad. Looking at these scores, actually, it's pretty horrendous. But they conceded 30 against the 49ers, 40 against the Cowboys, and 28 against the Cardinals. So and it's the way that they concede points as well. Like, there's that defensively, that there isn't a solid aspect to them at all. You can run and you can pass on them. So the 49ers ran on them for 141 yards and passed on them for 300. So there's no way that they can control the win either, especially without Saquon Barkley and Andrew Thomas.
Well, quickly, Maddie, just get this in so we can get out of here under an hour so I can put it on Instagram. Do you trust Seattle's defense?
I have trust in the institutions in Seattle, like Pete Carroll, to make sure they have a good enough defense against Andrew Thomas, against a Giants team, which they don't have a left tackle and they don't have Saquon Barkley. Yes.
No, that's fair. I just was I was wondering because I go back and forth if I trust their defense or not, but that's what it is for me. I trust Pete Carroll more than the actual players on the defense.
Yeah, and the Seahawks have a lot of injuries on that defense as well. Like the Seahawks defense is only going to get better throughout the year, I think, as well.
I trust the X's and O's over the Billies and the Joes in this one.
In defense, especially, I think in defense, especially, like in offense, you can kind of get a guy who is just unstoppable. In defense, you can as well. Before we get out of here, shout out to the Cowboys for their big win against the Patriots, which I understand why there's no need to talk about it because we thought they were. That's as expected. But shout out to the Cowboys. Also, shout out to the Texans against the Steelers, which might be.
That's a thing. So next show on Thursday, we should talk if you trust CJ Stroud to be the next good quarterback. Mac Jones done in New England. That's something we should talk about on the next show.
Yeah, let's get that in the next show. Yeah. CJ, I'm a big fan of CJ. I tried to trade for CJ Stroud as well this week, but very rightly got rejected.
I like what DeMeco Ryans is doing down there, but we'll save that for the next show so I can make sure that we get out of here and I can put this on Instagram.
Yeah. Also, Matt Canada sucks. Is the worst offensive coordinator in the league.
Canada.
Fire Matt Canada. That's one thing I wanted to talk about on the show. Fire Matt Canada, but that was my only point. So we don't need to talk about it. As they said
on the Sims, or as they said on the South Park, blame it on Canada. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.